How old is that, and what's your problem? I mean, normally dinosaurs died out nearly 100 million years ago, etc. But you see, I'm old enough to not only have observed some of this stuff, I've not only studied it and done some testing, I've watched things change in age. Welcome to Jenolan Caves in Australia. Now, when you're allowed to, come on back. We need all the tourist dollars that we can get. What's interesting about here? I first visited these caves in 1962. So yes, I was a teenager then. Tells you a little bit how old I am now. Okay, 1962. In 1962, the tourist guide, which I still have, and I believe you can even find it online these days, tells you it is 4,000 years old. Yep, the bush rangers used this cave. They stayed there. They stored their stolen cattle and that there. We knew a lot about this cave, that it was 4,000 years old. What was their framework? Well, you see, they believed the biblical framework of things. The world was 6 or so thousand years of age. The flood was sort of 4,000 years ago. This is all made of limestone. Limestone, yes, you heard me correctly. These are biblical-based dates. The limestone was all full of sea creatures, and this limestone is on a vast area and related to Noah's flood. So therefore, 4,000 years old. And I went back in 2008, and by then it was 400 million years old. And as I love to say, boy, it had been a long time since I was at the caves, don't you think? No, what had happened was between 1962, when the biblical worldview was just beginning to be totally rejected in Australia, and the Charles Darwin evolutionist Charles Lyell view was coming in, one thing it showed up in was the age of rocks. Not because the rocks had changed, but because the philosophy of the scientists and the teachers had changed. Did you catch that? The people wanted things to be old. They no longer believed the biblical record. So in case you think we're bringing religion into it and tying it up with carbon-14, it's always been involved. If you pick the wrong religion, you'll use the wrong facts to back it up. Another illustration. Look at this lovely big road cutting. One year in the USA, I decided to take a shortcut through Kentucky. I passed this cutting. And do you see what's there in the middle of this supposedly 300 million year old rock? Well, it's a nice big drainage system coming out of the layer up near the top. This is all limestone. And when you get up close, you can actually see its browny gunk. So it's fairly tall. In fact, by the time you get to the actual cutting, it's about 10 meters tall. And you can actually see how wide the thing is, because when you get up close, the top part is still growing because it's got water on it. And not only is it growing, it's growing moss because it's perpetually damp. Okay, you go a bit closer and you can actually see, well, there's my driver for the day. They try not to let me drive in the USA because, as Joseph will have found, they all drive on the wrong side of the road over there.
I know, it's terrible.
It is interesting. So I always try and get a driver so I don't sort of smash into anybody on the way to collect fossils and rocks. Now, if you look at this guy here, yeah, that's me. That's right. The world's living fossil. It was a wet, miserable day. And there's many of these little flows. Yes, they are flows. They're made of, well, what are they made of? Well, when you actually go into them, they're coming out of the limestone. You get up close, you can see they're growing mossy stuff, whether it's the low ones or the tall ones. And when you break a piece off, there's the green mossy stuff on the outside. There's the whiter stuff on the inside. And when you get a bit closer, wow, these are actually made of moss that's absorbed lime coming out of the rock. And when you put some hydrochloric acid on it, you prove beyond a shadow of a doubt it's not just calcium, it's calcium carbonate. These are limestone growths. This is 10 meters tall, it's made of lime, and it's actually petrifying any moss that's growing because they're perpetually wet. All right, what's interesting about this? You go to the caves, they tell you these things take a long time. Oh, you go to Jenolan caves, don't touch the stalactites, they take vast ages. Well, this is bigger than most stalactites in the Jenolan caves, because this road only opened in 2009. How do we know? I got the locals to check. We checked with the main roads department or their Tennessee division of the same, and found out when this road cut was made. So at the most, this was only showing in 2005, because that's when they started digging. So this is not very old at all. It wasn't there until they cut the rock open. I took the picture in 2015, and at most that growth, 30 feet tall, 10 meters tall, and you'll find it's up to half a meter thick of lime. It wasn't there in 2005.